warm welcome. But before we kick off the program, here is a bit of a breaking news. The U.S. government is set to transfer $23 million to Nigeria as part of the Abacha loot. The Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, signed the agreement with the U.S. Ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, for the transfer of looted funds just a few moments ago. Part of the monies returned earlier was used in the construction of the Second Niger Bridge, which we will be discussing right here. Official confirmation that the Second Niger Bridge project will be inaugurated before the end of this year, precisely in October, has brightened the prospects for Nigeria's economy, especially in the areas of infrastructural development. First proposed more than 40 years ago, the Second Niger Bridge, until the coming of the current administration, had appeared to be a typically jinxed Nigerian project used to seek political votes during every general election. Though there is a general agreement about its importance, especially as it links the southeast with the south-south and southwest, easing traffic flow and offering significant socio-economic benefits for the entire nation, successive administrations were unable to get it off the ground. With the project now hovering close to 96% completion, President Muhammadu Buhari is confident that when inaugurated, it will help to improve the country's development ratings. And for more insight on this, I have joining me virtually Tolu Ogunlesi, who is a special assistant on digital and new media to President Muhammadu Buhari. And of course, we'll be having Chief Willy Ezugwu, who is the Secretary General of the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, CNPP, and of course, Dr. Amadi, as Analyst, joining us during the conversations. And I go straight to you, Tolu. Let's talk about this iconic project and how it will help to project Nigeria's infrastructure as one of the best globally. We've seen several bridges being built across Africa, but this coming on stream in Nigeria when the country doesn't have enough monies to spend on infrastructure and we had to resort to loans at some point in time. A lot will say that it's a project that will make a lot of Nigerians not just to remember President Muhammadu Buhari, but how it's helping to ease off the challenges of commuters within that part of the country. Tell us more.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, especially at this time when, as you said earlier, there's just needless controversy around this Second Niger Bridge. This is one project that does not need any special selling. It sells itself. It speaks for itself. For context, the first bridge, the old one, the existing bridge, was built in 1965. That's 57 years ago. All things being equal, there's no reason why the second bridge, should not have been built long before now. But we know that, it was not built. As of 2015, when President Buhari came to office, it was not built. There was a lot of talk, a lot of noise. There was a flag off in 2007. I think many people don't know that. There was a flag off in just before the Obasanjo administration signed out. There was a flag off with fanfare. Nothing happened. There was a second flag off in 2014, 7 years later. Again, big fanfare and all that. But, the challenge with the bridge was that beyond the fanfare, the biggest question is financing. You can hope, you can wish, but you need to finance it. That's the challenge. And it's not just the Second Niger Bridge. You had Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. You had Bodo Boni. There are dozens of projects like that were envisioned and touted and talked about with much fanfare, but no financing. Financing was always the bus stop from which those projects could not move past. And so the Buhari administration basically just decided, look, we need to finance this thing. We cannot depend on the budget, and if you know how the budget works, each year you put in some money, for a project of that size, the cost of it, as you mentioned earlier, is 206 billion. That's just for this first phase. And I think we can come to the phases later, but this first phase, which is about 11.9 kilometers in total, the bridge, 1.6 kilometers, and about 10 kilometers of highway. That's phase one, 206 billion. Imagine putting 10 billion per year in the budget. How long would that take you to do it? So essentially, in 2018, the president set up something called PIDF, the Presidential Infrastructure Development Fund, PIDF, and the whole point of that was that we are going to get dedicated financing, managed by a competent authority, the Sovereign Wealth Fund, Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority, who have expertise in fund management and investment. We're going to give them seed funding. As we find money, we'll give it to them. They also have a mandate to be able to go to the private sector where possible and raise financing. But we are going to give them financing. They will manage it, professionally. It's a world-class investment authority. They will manage it and invest that money in the project. And here we are. That's in a nutshell the story of the financing.
Okay, yeah. Actually, Tolu, I had to give you time to explain that financing because it's sort of the controversies that we are seeing online, and people are saying that the Buhari government didn't sink monies alone into this project. Yes, there was a 10 billion naira that was already sunk into it by former President Goodluck Jonathan, and of course, like you had mentioned and given credit to former President Olusegun Obasanjo, he had attempted to do that. And what many people also don't know is that former military head of state Ibrahim Babangida had also given a lot of consultants, including Nigerian Society of Engineers, the opportunity to redesign the project and ensure that it comes, but it never got successful. So in the face of all of this, why does it look like it's difficult for people to want to just say Buhari should take a chunk of the glory in the midst of all of this? Should we be looking at one person taking the glory, or we should look at a way of distributing the glory to all the successive administration, right from the ones that conceived it, to those who designed it, and of course, to the execution?
I think each government should take credit or glory for whatever part they did. I speak for the Buhari government and what we have done on that project, and I can tell you that the 90% of the funding has been done by this administration. That much I can tell you. If people want to take credit for the 10% that they put into it, that's fine. They probably can do that. But I also must say that, look, there's a lot of politics involved in this thing where people are just refusing to acknowledge. And so you have a lot of misinformation and disinformation out there, and a lot of it is, of course, political. Because people just find it hard to acknowledge that this project, that has defied successive administrations is finally being done. It's that simple. I've had the privilege of visiting the site. I visited in January 2019. At that time, the work had, barely started. There were a few piers in the water and all that. So I can tell you that 90% of the work that has been done on that bridge has been done by this government, and it's important. It's important to be clear about these things.
All right.
It's important to remind Nigerians about the flag offs that happened before that were just noise and fanfare without any. There was no solid plan to finance.
Tolu, I will just ask you to. Sorry, I had to interject there. I have a guest in the studio here, so it will be good to actually hear his own perspective. And Willy Ezugwu, I just want you to take us through some of the traffic gridlock challenges we usually have in that part of the country, and why it's important for Nigeria to actually have this bridge opened and working for a lot of people, because it's not only for the people of the Southeast. A lot of Nigerians commute in and around that axis. So there's always this notion that this project is only meant for the Southeast, which from what we have seen, it's not necessarily so.
Well, thank you so much for having me in this program today on the issue of Second Niger Bridge. First and foremost, Second Niger Bridge happens to be a cash point of all the campaigns in most of the Nigerian political periods. Every government that enters wants to use Second Niger Bridge as a kind of a cash point of their campaigning programs. First and foremost, the Second Niger Bridge, was think about right from NPN days. From NPN days, it came down to Ibrahim Babangida, who even challenged Nigerian Civil of Engineers and told them to challenged them to design the second Niger Bridge. And that was how it came down periodically down to Yaradua, which Yaradua would have been the best person that would have done a lot for us, but unfortunately, the Lord calls him to glory. And after that, then Goodluck Jonathan came in. Goodluck Jonathan, you saw when they went to flag off some kind of something at Niger Bridge, at Onitsha, and unfortunately, he released some money. It started by that period. Finally, Buhari came in. And as far as we are concerned, the second Niger Bridge, when people are talking of no money or money come and go and whatever people are saying, I can bet you, for example, if Nigeria can do a railway with a foreign exchange loan up to Amadi, and second Niger Bridge, which is the cash point of business in Nigeria, because it combines southwest, south-south, southeast in terms of business, and you can see the inflow of traffic in that particular road. Like, for example, during the December period, during the Christmas, people stayed there up to 1 week before they could get across both sides. And if not, Nigeria is such a country where the good is the bad. I don't think whether anything about second Niger Bridge would have been something people would be talking about PPP kind of contract. Because this is a very, very, very important bridge. And it's not as much as like Atlantic Ocean where you have Third Mainland Bridge. How long did it take them to do Third Mainland Bridge? That this particular bridge that is very much minor in terms of the river, is River Niger. It's not even the Atlantic Ocean. That's how we have all been arguing every year in, year out. Every regime wants to take glory and they cannot. It's just because it is in Southeast. That is why when the people talk of Southeast that are being marginalized, people think that
okay, but you didn't actually talk about that question that I asked, the sort of pains people go through in that particular axis and how this can bring relief to Nigerians there.
That is what I said. Excuse me, that is what I'm saying. I said during the period of Christmas period, December period,
yes,
you find out people spend up to 1 week.
Yeah, so I'm asking, what I'm interested to know is that if, for example, this bridge is concluded, like how long do you think it can reduce? If we still have like one week where people are trapped there, do you foresee a situation whereby, I mean, there won't even be people being trapped if this road is
well, of course, if they are finally finished the road, I think it will do a lot of relief for travelers from the west, the south, and the east, and most other people. I mean, other places. Okay. So it is a very, 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 very well. We can thank them if, by God's grace, they can, open the bridge and finish what they are doing. I think is some good commendations.
Okay, coming from an opposition politician, I think we just have to go on the break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation on the iconic Second Niger Bridge here in Nigeria. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Horizon TV. I'm Somna Sambo, and I still have with me Tolu Ogunlesi, who's a special assistant on digital and new media to President Muhammadu Buhari, and of course, Chief Willy Ezugwu, who's the Secretary General of the Conference of Nigerian Political Parties, CNPP, is right here with me, and of course, we're just having our own Dr. Sam Amadi, Arise Analyst, joining us. Now, Dr. Sam Amadi, let's talk about the issues of infrastructure deficits, not just in Nigeria, but Africa, and how this iconic Second Niger Bridge is one bridge that will help to improve our infrastructure rating, not just across the continent, but globally.
Well, first, I think this should have been done much earlier than now, in terms of view of its critical importance as a hub for both commerce and for social integration. We need to note three things. One is that if you look at developed countries, the US, even the Asia countries, one of the fundamental things to do is road infrastructure, and that includes bridge. So you see in the US, large geographical areas, roads, bridges are critical infrastructure that drive national unity, that drives economic development and integration. So, I mean, whenever I travel from here, Abuja, to the east, and I see the narrow roads in Kogi, Kenya, I wonder what Nigeria leaders were thinking about when they had roads everywhere. They had bushes everywhere. So they did narrow road. Now we are trying to do that. So just like in Africa, infrastructure deficit has resulted in constrained economic development. And if you look at Asian economies where we need to borrow more, you see that they were bullish in building infrastructure, not just roads, rail, electricity, and all that. What that does, it has a multiplier effect on economic growth. It helps to diversify the economy. It also bridges the rural-urban divide. So today, you see everybody, maybe the few good roads are in Abuja and Lagos, so people come to Lagos. But you look at the economic potentials in the rural area, they are starved because there are no good connections. And today, we are now in the broadband era where we're talking about super infrastructure projects. So we've not even got the basics right. And so we have to commend this government for what they've done on roads, some of the work they've done on previous government. But again, we should always think that government is a continuity. And some basic things, the big dig in the US, in Massachusetts, took over 50 years. In fact, when I was at credit school, it was one of our studies on project failure. Different regimes come in and they continue. So the way Nigerians, kind of cut and slice projects around 4 years tenure is terrible. So it's a good idea that it was started, it should have been completed long ago. Now that this government is on it, they should complete it quickly as much as they can. But within Africa, the point is, we like the infrastructure, it's constraining growth, it's also constraining social mobility, and above all, it is reducing national unity, because it's when people integrate and move more mobile daily, then the consequence that they get together more often and understand that they're actually bound together more than they're divided.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been an advocate of that. A lot of Nigerians don't travel. That's why they don't know their country so much, and it's easy for you to just fight and all of that. And coming back to you, Tolu, let's talk about some of the things I've read. People criticizing the Buhari administration for allegedly excluding a rail line which is supposed to be attached to this bridge. And throughout the conversations I've had in the past, I never myself read anything like that there was meant to be a rail line attached to this bridge. Is there by chance any fact to such kind of discussions? And then let's talk about the Abacha loot that's coming to, which we have heard over time, those who are returning some of these funds, giving conditions that it must be attached to critical projects like this, of course, which the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority eventually did.
No, so I mean, there's a lot of misconception, as I said earlier, misinformation, disinformation around this bridge. A lot of it also political. Because nothing of this scale has been, as far as I know, done in the southeast. In the last 50 years. So it's understandable that the people who should have done it, who didn't, will find all the excuses in the book. To attempt to undermine it or make it sound like it's not as important or whatever, but the fact is that talking about the rail line in the southeast, you have the Port Harcourt Maiduguri, that is there. You have the plan for the Lagos Calabar. There was never any plan to have a rail line alongside or on the bridge. That is one of those fabrications that came up for people so that some people can dismiss the work that has been done on that bridge. And there's a lot of such. You will hear a lot of that on social media. Again, you just need to look at the political affiliations of the people who keep coming up with these things, even when it is debunked. And to be honest, it's not worth wasting a lot of time on. To go to the second issue that you talked about, the Abacha loot. I'm glad to hear, actually, that you mentioned, you started this show by saying that there's been another signing for another $23 or so million. Abacha loot from the US. In May of 2020, about $311 million Abacha loot was also sent back to Nigeria. There was a big signing ceremony early in 2020, that transferred the money. And, part of the deal signed was that this money will go to the NSIA for investment into PDIF. PDIF is that special fund that was set up in 2018 to finance, big ticket infrastructure projects. So the kickoff projects within PDIF are Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in the southwest, Second Niger Bridge linking the south and the southeast, and then you have the Abuja, Kaduna, Zaria, Kano Highway, which is almost 400 kilometers, in the north. So PDIF has. So far, I can tell you that PDIF, the president has approved more than $1 billion of financing for PDIF since 2018. More than $1 billion has been given to NSIA as PDIF money. As I said, NSIA is managing this money, I was just looking at their financial statement for last year, 2021, and they made almost $1 billion in earned income from managing that fund. And so that again justifies the decision to give that money to an investment entity, a world-class investment entity that can make the most of it. Okay. So that's it by way of PDF. And they also have a mandate.
Very quickly, sorry to interject. How about the Sukuk? Because I keep saying Sukuk. I think on the ancillary roads that are supposed to link to the bridge being mentioned and all of that. What's the role of the Sukuk in the funding of the Second Niger Bridge?
So the Sukuk is not involved in Second Niger Bridge. Second Niger Bridge is wholly funded by PDF, which is NSIA managed. Sukuk is another initiative by this administration. So far, we have raised about 600 billion in Sukuk bonds, to finance. I think at the last count there were over 70 major projects. Highways, roads all over the country. So Sukuk, of course, the debt management office is the one that raises the Sukuk bonds from the private sector, and this is paid back, of course, over a stipulated and agreed period of time. So Sukuk does not. Sukuk is another initiative. So you have PDF, you have Sukuk, you have something called HDMI, the Highway Development Management Initiative, by the Ministry of Works and Housing, and these are all initiatives, infrastructure financing initiatives that were initiated and financed by the Buhari administration to ensure that we're able to finance all of those so-called jinx projects that we could not finance before now.
All right. Just before I let you go, there have been these calls for the bridge to be named several names. Some people are saying it should be Muhammadu Buhari Bridge. Some people are saying Chuba Okadigbo Bridge. Some people are even saying that, look, Nnamdi Azikiwe's name should be brought back to that bridge. What are the plans by your government to name this iconic project?
Well, as far as I know, there are no plans to name it yet. Naming such an iconic bridge is not something that we've done lightly. We often like to joke, we call it Muhammadu Buhari Bridge, just jokingly. The president that I know will not. I doubt that he will allow a project to be named by his own government after him. So of course, but we like to make a joke out of that because also just to highlight the fact that he's the game changer on that. But in terms of the naming, it's not something that is a decision that will be taken lightly. I'm sure that when we get to that bridge, pardon the pun, we will name it.
We just have to let you go now. Tolu Ogunlesi is a special assistant on digital and new media to President Muhammadu Buhari, and we must thank you immensely for providing an insight into the controversies. And I come to you, Chief Willy Ezugwu. You are a chief in the southeast of the country. When it comes to naming of this project, what would you be suggesting?
Well, what am I suggesting than Second Niger Bridge?
So you should not take the name of anyone.
There is no precedent glory because the several governments have passed through it. So automatically, to me, as far as I'm concerned, the Second Niger Bridge is enough for the bridge to be named.
Well, I don't know if you differ, Dr. Samawadi.
I would say that it's already named Second Niger Bridge. But again, look at the process of naming. It's not bad if the next government comes up and say, look, President Buhari has done tremendous work, or like Tolu says, the game changer, and they think that they want to give him that honor. That's fine. It should always be left for the regime that comes after you to name things on your behalf. What is scandalous and really silly is people naming things where they're using coercive power of state to name things after themselves.
So I'm happy. We saw the first Niger Bridge.
I'm happy what you said, that the point is not contemplate that. So if they give you President Buhari Bridge, that's fine. If it is the decision of the next government, and looking at the papers, truth is that he has done more than every other person, but that's not his project. He didn't originate it. Oftentimes, people who have the vision to originate project should score higher, because they're the people who vision changed. And exactly, but these people now continued and finished. If Buhari didn't finish and somebody came and put the last block, he will sign off. But the headquarters of NEC. And then I fix everything. I didn't step in. Someone else is there. Now, if the other person now names it himself, his name, although we wanted to name it Goodluck Jonathan House, because we felt he has done much for the power sector. But anybody can come and say, okay, we recognize Sam Amadi, or recognize Jonathan, or recognize President Buhari, as long as I don't care. But Second Niger Bridge is iconic. There's a Niger river there. There's a first bridge. There's a second one.
Yeah, and coincidentally, the first bridge was constructed by the Tafawa Balewa government, and then, of course, it was the last national assignment that he did as Prime Minister. I think 11 days later, he was killed, and eventually, that bridge is not named after him. It's just,
why do I have to?
It's just there and all of that. So, well, but you know, people can be very emotional about this, and then even for the purpose of record, there are so many bridges. I mean, maybe we should actually refer this to this as Second Niger Bridge at Onitsha. Yes. Because, I mean, there are so many bridges that are actually close to that area. But I come to you, Willy Ezugwu. Let's talk about how this project has been politicized over time. A lot of administrations, politicians will be telling us this. In fact, there was a time that former President Goodluck Jonathan said that if he doesn't deliver this project in 2015, that he will commit political suicide. Tell us about that. And eventually he left in 2015 without, yeah, I mean, without
it's political suicide.
So I don't know. Maybe that's part of what affected his fortunes.
Well, you see, like everything about the Southeast in this country is something not being taken serious. Maybe because of.
But this is being taken serious now.
Excuse me. That is why it lingered for this period. You know, I gave an example. I said, if you can take foreign loan in dollars to do rail to another country, how much more the Niger Bridge that he knows is the base of economic business in this country? The biggest market in West Africa is Onitsha. And I was watching Tolu. Tolu now went railway, passed through Port Harcourt, he passed through Calabar. Where the main business is? Where the traders is? It's just spot off.
Yeah. It didn't pass.
So it's very, very unfair, and we know that. And that is why when the Southeast is crying that they are marginalized, people will be talking as if they don't see it live. Even the politics we are playing today, the present democracy, the major political parties, you can see what is happening to the Southeast. It's not what we're talking about today, but at times you make some references.
Yeah, but if the Southeast didn't support the governing party, what do you expect them to do? And yet the governing party has delivered this project.
What of the PDP, where the Southeast is the main brain of PDP? Today, where are they? You can name up to 4 major political appointments from the presidential candidate to the chairman down to the secretary. What is Southeast in there? I'm not even talking of APC ruling party, but I'm not talking of the PDP that was even formed by somebody from the Southeast, Chief Ekweme, and rest of them. Where are we there? So you see, it talk less of when it comes to infrastructure development in Southeast. All the roads, they are decayed. For example, again, when you talk of Southeast, you talk of from Abuja, Lokoja, Ajokuta to the east. Go and see the road. It's just like a very tiny road I mean, hey, you can.
Well, there's a local Oweto bridge, which the same federal government is about bringing in place. I mean, a very long bridge, another long bridge again that Buhari is going to
in
Nasarawa, which will help to cut
from Lokoja,
the road trip we're talking about.
State down to Nsukka, they are single lane, and this is where you have major traffic in this country.
Okay, I would like you, Dr. Sam Amadi, to talk about that. The politics of infrastructure development when it comes to general elections. I mean, most presidential candidates have always been using this same Second Niger Bridge to preach this. They will do this and do that. The PDP, I mean, like the APC would like to say, the PDP kept saying that they will deliver this bridge on paper, and never happened. Like this governing APC now coming to say that they've done. Okay, so what is the consequence of politicizing projects instead of you looking at the gains for citizens?
That's a good question. First, not just road. Look at electricity. Probably today would have had 10,000 megawatts more if it did not cite NIPP according to political conveniences. If you are taking all the NIPP straight to Niger Delta, where there's gas and you shortcut transition costs, today probably those NIP projects would have all been firing. So we done it in many places. Sometimes we take projects that ought to go to places that have the economics back, we take it to places that politics support. And sometimes we deprive other zones because they don't have good politics. Now you talk about PDP and APC government, PDP not supporting. You see, when a government wins, it takes over government. The question of who supports you or not doesn't matter. You have to do justice, you have to do economic sense. So take example, that bridge. That bridge will unlock a lot of GDP growth for Nigeria. The train from Niger to Niger, from Katsina, Amadi, has little economic value. But again, you use funds that are borrowed, which means to double whammy, you're going to pay them up, and there's no compensating economic value to support the repayment. So it's actually a bad idea. In fact, this is where you should have used extra cash. If you have extra cash.
Yeah, but don't you think Buhari himself will be accused of pushing infrastructure developments more to the southern part of the country when his own people are suffering? So maybe that could have also led to his thinking that he also needs to do something within that corridor.
Exactly. The question that we always think about my people. And that's why we're in this fix. You see, I don't see the Second Niger Bridge as a favor to Southeast. The point is that Southeast people pass to Lagos. Lagos people pass to Southeast. That's why infrastructure is designed as non-political. Infrastructure should be a national intervention. And I talk about economic growth, I talk about integration, unity of the people. So, for example, assuming you have food, cassava from the Southeast, and the roads are good, they come to Abuja, you're going to get them at smaller prices. Again, take for example, I always say, if Nigerian leaders have done the best hospitals, let's say in Kogi or in Niger, when IBB came from, the roads are good. From your village, maybe 2 hours, you are in that hospital. So I want us to remove this politicization. It's not about Buhari's village or Southeast.
Yeah, I have to ask you that question because I've heard it within Northerners saying that, look, Buhari and his APC favored the southern part of the country when it comes to infrastructure more than the northern part of the country. Although when it comes to appointments, the northern part of the country had more of it than the southern part of the country. I mean, these are conversations we hear.
They may be right and wrong. If you look at the fact that before now, northern roads have been far better than southern roads. So, for example, if you look at, if not kidnapping, from Kaduna here to Kano to Kebbi to Sokoto, is not comparable from here to Sokoto to Owerri to Calabar, and even to Lagos. Until recently, this government started upgrading Lagos. So yes, you're going to intervene where there's a crisis. You allow the money to follow crisis and opportunities. So if there's more intervention, and I doubt, I want to see the figure, it might be explainable that the major projects that are running, bridges, are in the Southeast. The Lagos about expressway is not for Southwesterners. That is a major economic hub of the country. So most of these things are enlightened self-interest.
All right, very quickly, any addition to that before we go on that discussion? Whether Buhari has had more infrastructure development in the southern part of the country than the north?
I don't think so, because just like I told you, I gave you an example from Ajokuta down to Enugu, Owerri, just name it, up to Calabar and rest of them, are single lane, and these are the main economic hub of this country.
Okay, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway is there too, and some other projects in that part of the country. But well, we must thank you so much, Chief Willy Ezugwu. I have to keep adding that chief because you're a traditional ruler, a ranking one in the Southeast, and we must thank you for coming to help us understand these issues. And of course, our own Dr. Sam Amadi has been helping us to understand how critical it is to have infrastructure that help to drive economic growth, and of course, to create economic corridors that are economically viable for the country. And of course, earlier on, we had Tolu Ogunlesi, who's the Special Assistant to President Muhammadu Buhari on new media, and of course he helped us to understand all of the things that are happening, including the ongoing conversations on digital media on who should take the credit for the Second Niger Bridge or not. We must thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the show.